Welcome to the Comic Dudes, a podcast about comic books and comic book related things. This episode is going to release on October 30th, the day before Halloween. So every year we do like a Halloween episode. Last year we read Ghost Rider, like 90s Ghost Rider, and talked about it. This year we're doing something similar but different. We read Volume 1 of Something is Killing the Children, but we brought along a friend this time. We have a third person here with us. So in addition to myself and Matt, we also have my friend Erik, and he's waving.
Yeah, hello.
Also an audio podcast. You do have to speak. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I mean, it's both. So, I mean, I'm used to only having audio, but I was like, whoa, I can actually gesture. People can see me.
Yeah, and you know what?
Take off
10
the mask.
people that watch us on YouTube will love it.
Fuck yeah, I'm going to make more than 10 people watch it.
Good. I'm glad. So before we get started, why don't you tell us who the fuck you are?
Oh, hey, I'm Erik. I have known Dave for, I don't even know, most of my life since we were in school. And we've spent much time together on all things music and video games and comics and movie related. It's just been part of our, I guess, relationship. And yeah, I do a podcast. It's called Twisted with Us. It used to be called ICPWWE, but then we finished all the ICP albums and then we started talking about Twisted. So if you like spooky rap music and people being fucking stupid on a podcast, you should go check it out. We just dropped episode 150.
Hell yeah. Congrats on that. I know that
Thanks.
That podcast started out kind of as a joke.
Kind of did.
And now it's taken on like a very serious life of its own, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a second job, really. I mean, I spend a ton of time on it, and I'm happy to, because we have an amazing community around us. So as long as they keep listening, we'll keep doing it.
Matt, you an ICP fan?
I've dabbled in the Juggalo, but I'm not a fan. No, I would not. Back in the day, my one friend was really big into ICP, so I kind of got some secondhand Juggalo-ness from him. We'll just put it that way.
That was kind of us. Like I listened when I was younger, like high school and college, and then kind of fell off, stopped paying attention. And one day, Aaron, co-host, actually, there's three of us now, Aaron and Robbie, but Aaron just tweeted, "I want to start a podcast called ICUP with me," and I was like, "Let's do it." And so then we fucking did. And he had never heard them really before, and I was like, I haven't heard them in 15 or 20 years. Let's catch up. And the goal was, let's review every album. Little did we know there was like 100 releases to talk about, and the community was like, okay, we're here for it. And we were like, oh, really? For real? Okay, cool. So it's definitely, become a real weekly when we can thing. Life gets in the way sometimes, so we miss them here and there.
Yeah, that's weird. Same thing happened to us. Kids and jobs and relationships and whatever else just gets in the way sometimes. So, but yeah, man, I love the story of how your podcast has grown, particularly because
that's a joke.
It started out like when you start using slang ironically, but you're actually making fun of it, and then a few months later you're like, oh fuck, this is just a part of my vocabulary now, and it's no longer ironic. It's kind of the same thing.
Man, I'll tell you, of all the creative ventures of my life, this was not the one that I thought was going to take off. But I'm not mad about it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, you should go check it out. I was honored to be a guest on that podcast as well.
Hell yeah.
You had an episode about the multiverse.
Yeah, we talked Earth 2.
Yeah, some Earth 2 clown horror rap.
Yes.
I don't know how to say that, but that's what I'm going to go with.
No, that's
also,
right. Yeah.
One more fun fact about Erik and I that most people wouldn't know, but we also got laid off from the same company too, several years apart. But our lives have been intertwined in many ways throughout the course of our lives.
Yeah, we were in the same band at different times when we were in high school.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, later in life, we were in the same band at the same time, which was way better. I liked that a lot more.
Me too. That was more fun.
Yeah, we started working for the same company in similar ways around the same time. You used to work with my brother and sister.
I used to work with Matt.
Yeah, okay. Matt, did you work with my brother and sister?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Wild. I don't know if we talked about that before, but then moved to Texas. Dave moved to Texas. Got laid off from the company. Dave got, opposite way. Dave got laid off and I got laid off. Yeah.
Good time.
So we'll see. I start a podcast. Dave starts a podcast.
Yeah. Who knows?
It's just how it. Who knows? Who knows?
I guess maybe next up for me is moving to the Pacific Northwest.
Man, I recommend it if you can afford it, because it's not cheap, but it's awesome.
I think east would be where I head.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's neither here nor there. Let's get to it. So I mentioned we read Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1. Matt, Eric, you've both read this before. This was the first time for me. The way we kind of do these review discussion episodes, I'll do a brief recap, hitting main story beats and some other fine detail, and then we'll just talk about the things we liked, some of the things we didn't like. If you have any sort of hot takes or controversial opinions, that'll be the last piece of the conversation. This is also the part of the episode where I tell everyone there are going to be massive spoilers discussed starting very, very soon. So if you do not want spoilers for Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1, now is the time to leave the episode. We'll give you a brief moment to do so. I can't make the moment be too brief because when the software we use to record edits things down for me, it's going to take that out. And there will be no brief pause whatsoever. So the longer the pause, the more manual work I have to go back and do later. So that was the pause that you get. If you're still here, prepare to get spoiled. So I'm not gonna give like an overall like, hey, this is what this comic is about. I think if you're still here, you probably already know. This is more recap for, if you've read this before and you're tuning in for a conversation about maybe your favorite comic. Who knows? So first of all, I want to give credit where it's due. This comic is written by James Tynion IV and art by, I'm gonna mess this name
Werther
up. Werther Dell'Edera.
Yep, that's good.
Look at me go. I'm a big James Tynion fan. I love his work.
Same.
Yeah. So I've been meaning to read this for a while. Eric has recommended this to me so many times. Matt's been on me about it too. I bought all the trade paperbacks, never touched them, and then I got a free month of Comixology Unlimited to read Volume 1. All that being said,
all right.
Preferred reading digitally.
In bed, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In bed before I go to sleep at night. So Volume 1 kicks off. There's a few boys at a sleepover. They're playing Truth or Dare. It's not as salacious as it sounds. They're young and they're stupid, and it's prank based. James is sort of our main character here for now. He tells a scary story, and then we jump to him talking to the police because all his friends died outside his house in the yard. We also meet a blonde woman who we can assume is a monster hunter of some kind. She's called to Archer's Peak, where James lives, to take care of whatever this problem is. And at the end of this issue, James tells our monster hunter what he really saw, which was a monster killing his friends. Previously, he had just said, hey, I didn't see anything. He was a liar. He saw it all. She says she's going to take care of it, and James is asking if he can help. Then they head to, I'm just going to say Applebee's because that's what it's supposed to be. It's an Applebee's.
Apple Beans, I think.
Yeah. They go to Applebee's, okay? They go to Applebee's I'm going to air quote, they work the case. They cause a scene with the employees and the monster hunter. We don't know her name yet. I keep calling her the monster hunter because we don't know her name yet. She goes back to her hotel/motel, whatever it is, and then she talks to her stuffed octopus, who is also some sort of spirit guide, ethereal creature. We don't know, and we're not going to find out. We do find out, however, that our main character's name is Erica Slaughter. We find this out because she gets picked up by the police for questioning after she leaves Applebee's and goes back to her hotel because the motel manager is a little unnerved at what's going on in her room. While she's being held at the police station, 5 more kids are killed, and there's a back and forth between Erica and the sheriff reluctantly lets her leave. James is outside waiting for her. She kind of snaps at James. And she also finds out that the threat that she's hunting is basically just says it's a higher class. We don't know what it is yet, but it's a little bit more intense than initially expected. And it's something that she hasn't faced like that in a while. And she's also still talking to the stuffed octopus. Next, James and Erica go and shop for weapons to hunt this monster. They're in sort of like a Lowe's, Home Depot type of place, getting chainsaws and bats and spikes and whatnot. And then Tommy, the server from Applebee's, gets his dad's gun because he's going to take care of Erica. He doesn't trust her, wants her dead. I don't know. He's going to go take care of what the police won't because they didn't do anything when the police were called on her. I'm going to call this person Erica's boss. It's very mysterious. We never see anything but like sort of their chest and arm. Calls the sheriff and sort of lets him know how it's going to be. And then we get what feels like a really quick wrap up to Volume 1. We find out some important information here as well, that we find out only children can see monsters. And while Erica is in this cave, nest, whatever, trying to take care of this giant spider monster, she's also attacked by Tommy. He tries to shoot at her or the monster. James gets hit by a bullet. And then Erica does something. We don't find out what. I'm sure we can find out in subsequent volumes, but she does something to his head that gives him the ability to see monsters too. Eventually, Erica takes down what is called the Mother, this monster, spider monster type of creature. She calls her mysterious boss, says, "Hey, I'll deal with the consequences, but you misclassified this. It has children, and she's going to go and hunt them down." And I am assuming this is what sets up the rest of the series, because we don't get a whole lot of explanations in Volume 1, but we do end with a lot of questions.
Sets up the first arc, I will say.
Oh my God. He has no idea what he's in for.
It's tough because the entire time you were talking, I'm like, I need to be super careful not to ruin anything.
Super vague.
Yeah. This first volume, just this one trade, is really just barely scratching the surface and introducing this world, because it gets bigger and it gets bigger. It just keeps going. And you learn a lot of the things that you said we don't know, you find out. And there are things that, even as you find out, are mysteries, which is part of the beauty of it.
Okay. I mean, I actually don't have a lot of like good, bad, hot takes written down. I have a few things, but I think I'll wait. I want to hear from the two of you, because this is a reread for the two of you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So similar to how Matt and I have been doing Invincible all year long, I'm on like my third reread of Invincible. I'm way closer to it. Like I'm really in there, and there's a lot of stuff happening that Matt has like he kind of forgot about, so it feels first time for him. I'm gonna take a back seat. I'm gonna let y'all kind of talk about some of this stuff, and I'll chime in. I have 3 things written down for what I liked. I'll chime in where appropriate.
So I definitely have that goldfish. I have the most goldfish memory out of probably all of us here on this podcast. So I do tend to forget things. So when we get to revisit something, I get really excited. So Dave told me about Erik and their relationship or whatever, and just randomly, because I'm just that kind of person, Dave mentioned something's killing the children, and I hit like Erik out of the blue. Like, this is like 2 years ago. I was texting him on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was super excited because I picked up this collection of Something's Killing the Children video listeners. If not, it's the deluxe edition. It's freaking beautiful. And I started reading it because I've heard nothing but good things about this book. Rereading this again, it was kind of like Invincible. I remembered the main beats, but there was a lot of things that I forgot. And honestly, Erik is right. There's a lot of things that this is just like honestly the setup. The next arc, what happens is like, holy shit. Like, there's some stuff that goes down in like the next, I think, 2 trades in this series. But dude, just like if we're doing like likes and good stuff, I'm just gonna say like Erica Slaughter, man. Like Erica Slaughter. I've heard of this Erica Slaughter character I've heard about it for like 2 years, and I'm like, whatever. Uh, this is how you write a badass female protagonist, in my opinion. I don't leave this to Marvel and DC. I leave this to the independents because they know how to do it best. And especially when you leave it in the hands of a writer like James Tynion, who I can talk all day about James Tynion and how much I respect him. Like, just unrelated to this, just understanding the comic business, understanding how to put a series. There's also, I don't know if you know Dave, there's a supplemental series called House of Slaughter.
I've heard of that.
I don't want to spoil too much, but that little group of people around the table when they got bonked on the head, that is explained way more in the House of Slaughter, which is like the lore of everything, and it really gets into Erica and her backstory and all that stuff. But like Tynion writes this in a way where he'll do House of Slaughter, then he'll take a break and he'll do Something's Killing the Children, then he'll do House of Slaughter. So like you're not doing the double book thing. Like he gets it, and he's very knowledgeable in like the variant cover game too. He doesn't go nuts in that. But Erica Slaughter, I like that this book is like kind of like a weird, like dark Peter Pan, where like the kids know everything, but the adults kind of don't, and like they can't see the monsters. And I almost spoiled something, but I'm not going to, about like how the monsters kind of come to being. I'm not going to talk about that. They kind of alluded to it, but I think they get in more depth in later volumes, so I'm not going to talk about that. They alluded
to it. It went way over my head because I don't remember any allusions to that.
They say it like really early on in like the first or second issue, but like they'll really explain it later, so I don't even want to mention like how they come to be. But I like the dark Peter Pan aspect, because like even with my kids, like Elena is like super smart. So I don't know sometimes if she's lying or telling me the truth half the time. But like these kids are saying like, we're getting killed, like this is going on XYZ, and you're going to hear that in later volumes. But like, and the adults like don't believe them because it's so fantastical. They can't see these things. It's just like, it was just like a nice little twist. And I'm just going to say this book came at a time, like for me, I'm not like a crazy horror person. I like some horror stuff. But like this filled that kind of like Walking Dead sized hole in my heart. It's not, I love Walking Dead. Like that's like one of my top series. I have all the volumes, but like this is that horror book for me that really latched on, and it connected for me. And it just hit. I don't know. That's me. I rambled. That's all my good stuff. But
all good.
Can I get one? I got to get one little jab in there real quick.
Get it in.
It wouldn't be an episode of this podcast if I didn't go at Matt for something.
A jab.
I know you said you respect the author of this book quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yet you don't respect him enough to say his name properly. I just think that's interesting. Tynion.
His website is Tiny Onion, so I believe his name is Tynion.
Tynion.
It's Tynion. I promise it's Tynion because I looked it up before this podcast.
No.
The man himself in an interview said how to pronounce his name. It's Tynion.
No,
there you go.
It's Tynion. Superman. It's not Superman.
Tynion. Call him what you want. Whatever. I tried.
Educate us.
Sorry,
Eric,
James.
please.
I tried. James, if you ever listen to this, you heard me try.
So, Matt, I definitely agree with you that this filled a hole in my heart, but the hole it filled in my heart, because I was lucky or random enough to start buying with issue 1. So I've bought every monthly issue, and now I realized that they're valuable, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But it filled the saga hole in my heart.
Ooh, that's it. Oh,
really?
Because I started buying in 2019, and this pulled me in a similar way, because it's very, even though it's in a fantasy world, it's very human. It's relatable, and it's in a world where you look at things and go, okay, that's crazy and outlandish, and yet it doesn't feel impossible within the world that they've built. And it sort of like filled that place for me. And as it goes, I think even more you start to learn about these characters. But agreed again, Matt, on that conversation in issue 4, I think it is, where they're talking about knowing versus believing, and why kids can see the monsters but adults can't. And it's a concept I've always thought about, usually in a religious concept. Like, there's a difference between I know something, I know this is real, and I believe something is real. And they flip it on its head. They go, adults don't see it because they know there's no such thing as monsters, but kids see it because they believe that it's real, even if they know it shouldn't be. So I thought that was really cool. Much like Saga, one of the things I love about this book, this series, is the pace of it. It's just a page turner. It's a fast read. And somehow, without getting into these dense dialogue blocks, it builds a really elaborate and interesting world that I think is pretty, relatable, even with all the mystery and dark fantasy in there. And I think it's neat because it's written like episodes of a TV show. Every issue has a cold open and then that like big double page splash of the title. And like you can totally picture what that would be like. And that's the pace of it. It feels really good. But agreed again, I love Erica Slaughter. Like everything in this series, she's human and relatable, but just different and weird enough in like these subtle fantasy ways, like the big eyes. And they reference it multiple times. They're like, that's weird, right? But the design works for me. I like her confidence in scenes like that police interrogation where she's just not phased. And she's like, you're going to get a call. They're going to tell you to let me go. Because everybody in this small town just immediately is looking for somebody to pin the problems on. They're like, kids are dying. It's this stranger that's weird. She must have done it, right? And she just isn't phased by it. I love the art in it. I'm going to say the name wrong too. It's Dell'Edera.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just really cool because it's rough. It lacks the polish that like a lot of mainstream, especially superhero comics do. And it really sets it apart, makes it feel really independent, I think, but it also works for the vibe and the tone of the book. So there's a lot of my goods. I know that's a bunch of goods. I just rambled.
That's okay. That's kind of how we do things around here.
Sick.
We go through lists. We talk about things that we've said. Cool. Boy, we could not be further apart here. You are both like, you're going really deep on this thing. And I agree. I love the character of Erica and the character design. I actually wrote down Erica is a badass and extremely well designed and cool.
Yeah.
It's a rare, I guess it's not as rare anymore, but it used to be, but she is a rare female protagonist that is not drawn for the male gaze. And I think I appreciate that. And the thing you were wearing, Eric, when we started the episode, her little like
the mask,
Scully bandana mask thing, I think that's fucking cool as hell. I love that.
Oh yeah.
I'm not, and this could just be because my exposure to this is only these 5 issues, you know?
Yeah.
You two have the advantage of an expanded
whatever you're about to say. Whatever you're about to say.
Your perspective is one of, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And this is awesome rereading it because I know what's about to happen next. However, I am just going into this blind and I'm at a decision point of, do I continue reading this or do I just file this away as that wasn't bad, but I'll never know what happened. I honestly, Eric, I thought you were going to say this filled the hack slash hole for you. I was surprised to hear you say Saga.
I almost wrote that in my notes because I'm a huge hack slash fan. I've read and collected all of the hack slash stuff. And this is like a non-juvenile hack slash. Like if you took it more seriously, there are so many similar elements because you've got that Cassie hack parallel with Erica Slaughter, killing the monsters and going from town to town to like take care of the slashers, this supernatural thing that shouldn't be real. It does fill that hole as well, but in a different way. I think it's more serious, so that's why it feels more like it fills the Saga hole.
Hack slash was kind of titties and gore.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
So am I. I mean, it is what it
male
is.
Gaze. Male gaze is this.
Yeah.
Tim Seeley never shies from the male gaze when it comes to designing female characters. So
didn't those 2 comics cross over though? Isn't there a hack slash Something's Killing the Children crossover? Or am I thinking of something else? Okay, then I'm thinking of maybe
Hack slash.
Fighter and Hack Slash.
Eric would
Yes,
know.
yes, yeah. That definitely happened. Hack slash has crossed over with tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Like Hack slash crossed over with, like I want to say Lady Death and Vampirella, stuff like that, like all kinds of things, but never something that's killing the children that I know of.
Okay, so I was wrong. Sorry.
It would be a good crossover.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Who knows? We'll never know. I had two other sort of good things written down, and they're both very much like, one is just, I think James' principal fucking rocks. I wanted more of him. That dude's awesome.
That principal.
I love his principal.
Yeah.
Cousin.
That was a rare teacher W. Big fan of the principal.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's more of him in the comic. I don't know. I'm okay with it. Does he come back? I'm okay with some principal spoiler. That might give me volume 2.
I believe in the next trade.
Volume 2, I'm telling you, you can't jump off before the next volume.
Hey man, I got Comixology Unlimited for 3 more weeks, so we'll see what I can get done.
Yeah.
No, you have, which I read it on this time. You have Global Comics, 6 volumes.
Yeah, I don't have a panel by panel guided view, so I don't have Global Comics yet.
Gotcha. Sweet.
Give me that panel by panel view, and I'm in. Until then, I'm out.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
That's actually a really interesting thing. When we get to Bat, I want to talk about that.
Okay. And then the only other good thing I had written down, there's a quote in the 2nd issue. It's Tommy's mom. She says, he's talking about his sister being missing. She says, "You don't believe that, but you don't know what else to say, and that's okay." And I think that was just I just love that sentiment, the quote. I just love James Tynion, man. I just think he's a great writer. But
that line hit me even rereading it the second time. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, that's just one of those, like, it's a very quotable, memorable, just, it's not a main story beat. It has nothing to do with anything in the comic other than, like, it's just one panel of goodness.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Saga-ass line right there. That's a Saga line. Like,
it's human and relatable. Yeah. And like that whole scene is something that, taken out of the context of fantasy, and this is a man and his mother, who his sister, her daughter, is been missing, and the mother has clearly given up hope, and the son says, "Don't worry, she's okay, we'll find her." And that's when she says that line. She's like, "You know it's not true, but you don't know what else to say." And I'm like, fuck, that's like real life. That's like a real thing.
You know why else it's so, I think why we latch on to it is because in real life, no one's actually going to say that.
Right.
This is like, you're living vicariously a little bit here.
It's a thought.
Yeah, because people say things to us all the time. Something bad happens, and they give you the positive reinforcement that they think you want to hear, whether they believe it to be true or not. I don't know.
It's like what I thought and would have said, but didn't.
That was it for my good. I didn't have a lot of good. That doesn't mean I didn't like it. I just didn't have a lot of good. Again, my lens here is different.
Yeah.
And you'll understand why I don't have so much good when we talk about some of my more scathing feedback.
Interesting. And see, this is cool though. Like, from talking to people, like I've read it all. I'm going back to reread it. I've got a different perspective on it. You're coming from the perspective of somebody that's going, should I pick this up and try it out? So it's like getting both sides of it, really.
I've also got, literally, I'm dealing with the hype machines named Erik and Matt.
Yeah, you've got the wrong people.
Times how good it is. So expectations were really high going.
Yeah. I mean, I was hooked when I read the first 2 issues. I remember reading the first 2 and being like, "Fuck, this is awesome." So I mean, for me, I was in
and telling me about it. You actually texted me and you're like, "Dude, did you pick this up?" And I was like, "Not." Sorry.
I saw Erica and was hooked. That's like Erica hooked me. Like, she was such an appealing character. Something different with that big ass eye. Like, I was hooked.
To me, this was at a time, like, so for context, where we used to practice, our band rehearsal space was right by a comic shop called Titan Comics. And so I had a box with them. So on Wednesdays when we'd go to practice or whatever, I would stop in and pick stuff up. But I also was just like, randomly trying new stuff. I'd walk up and down the aisles and go, this looks cool. I'll buy an issue or two and see how it is. And this was one of those that I was like, all right, let me try this out. I hadn't like heard about it. I didn't read it in previews. I didn't go online and see people saying how to pick it up. That might be part of why I was like, holy fuck, I randomly grabbed something that like really grabbed me.
That's how I found Invincible.
Yeah?
Same way. Well, not exactly the same way. I was working at the comic shop at the time. I was looking for something to read on a Saturday evening when no one was in the store. I was just walking around and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Superheroes. I like superheroes. And, 20 years later, I'm still loving it just as much as I did the first time I read it.
I also think this book took off. It was one of my kind of like hot takes or whatever, but like this book really took off. Like it came out during the pandemic, and I think that had a huge impact. Like people were looking for things to do, and I mean, comics just in general were up during the pandemic just because people were at home. It was something kind of safe. Get a comic, stay home, read it digitally, XYZ. And that I do remember the hype around this book. Like there was a lot of buzz in shops talking about this. Like in my shop, they have the different masks. Like it's like a thing. So I do think that had a part of this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so not to like correct you, it started, the first 10 or 12 came out before the pandemic.
Did it really?
It started in 2019. And I remember because when everything shut down, I actually moved during that time, and trying to pick up the 2 or 3, because they shut down production and a couple came out, trying to track down the 2 or 3 that I was missing was really difficult. I had to like pay triple the price online to get, I think, issue like 14 or 15, just because not that many went out and not that many hung around in shops. So it definitely, I think, blew up over the pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're definitely right in that regard.
So should we move on to the bad? Do you guys have anything bad to say about this comic even?
I do.
Should I start?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of bad things. I have 2 bad things. So
do I. But I think one's going to spark some conversation.
Okay.
Number one, contrary to what opinions have been stated so far, I'm not super loving the art.
That's one of mine too.
That's also one of mine. I have it in good and bad. As good as it is, it's also pretty fucking ugly sometimes.
Yes. And it bums me out because one of my creature comforts every month is flipping through a paper copy of the previews catalog and writing out my comic book order to then send in to Lone Star Comics, where I buy all my comics from, because I do mail order. I don't go to a comic shop. I don't like your local comic shop. I don't think it's a good experience. So I do all of my stuff mail order.
Mine's pretty
cover
good.
art, huh? Mine's great.
Yeah, I was gonna say my local shop's pretty good.
I'm glad you guys have good shops. I can't find any here. Happy for you. Very happy for you. I'm also kind of a grump, so you know what? I'm not out there making friends like Matt. Matt befriends every single person he sees in public.
I don't make friends either, so
I appreciate that shot, but that's cool, man. Whatever, no big deal.
Well, so you don't think the cover art's cool? Wait a minute, you think the cover art sucks?
Let me finish. So part of going through previews, I see this incredible cover art for Something Is Killing the Children every single month. And now, finally, literally, I bought all 5 trade paperbacks a year ago this month. When Matt was in town visiting, we went to Cowtown Comic Con, which is in Fort Worth. Shout out Cowtown Comic Con, by the way. It's probably the best regional con I've ever been to. They understand that it's a comic book convention first and a pop culture and Funko Pop collection convention second. But I bought all of those a year ago. I've been just sitting around waiting and expecting to have the interior art be as good as the cover art. And boy, was I surprised in a bad way.
I mean, I guess it depends on expectations, because I didn't have that expectation when I first bought it. So I was like already there. So even though I can acknowledge that I'm like, sometimes these characters and stuff look ugly. And I think some of it's intentional and some of it's probably not. But yeah, I get that. I hate when I'm like, oh man, this looks cool, because fuck what people say. I definitely judge comics by a cover. If there's a cool cover, I'm going to pick it up and look at it. And then I look inside and I'm like, this
Yep.
fucking sucks.
Yep.
So, but I do like the art, but I also hate the art.
I think stylistically, I guess it sort of matches the tone, but
Yep.
it doesn't lend itself to particularly cool or scary monster design so far. I don't know. Just a big spider.
Okay.
It gets kind of muddy too in like the combat. Like it's just I don't know. That style, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't hate it.
Won't disagree with you because I kind of feel the same at times.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just don't love
It's just
it.
different.
I'm very indifferent, but indifference doesn't have a spot on our 3 categories of conversation, so it had to go bad.
You know, it's funny though because it's like, you know, I grew up listening to a band that I fucking love. I listen to them all the time, and then I tell somebody else to check it out who was not there from the beginning and didn't like listen to it all along, and they're like, I don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there's a little bit of that level. Jumping in now is a little different than picking up issue 1 and reading along. I think it's like that.
It's a good point.
That's fair. The other sort of negative thing here is that, again, I mentioned it in the recap. This wraps up so quickly. The entire 5-issue arc feels like an MCU origin movie, and that's not a compliment. That's actually an insult, because the MCU origin movie is one of the worst possible things about the MCU, where you make me sit through an hour and 40 minutes of whatever to give me 20 minutes of our hero in costume doing superhero-y things. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here. Like I barely got any Monster Hunter action until the very end. And I feel like if it would have been, I don't know. Again, I'm not going to armchair quarterback a guy like James Tynion, who is, again, I think an incredible writer, but I think for someone like me, I would have preferred that this first arc be told sort of non-linearly, where we're getting the backstory interspersed with maybe a longer, drawn-out fight. The end fight kind of pulled forward, maybe started in issue 3 or something. Just give me a little bit more. I think there's some cool concepts, and I went into it expecting like monsters and fantasy and some more of those supernatural, spooky type of elements, and there wasn't a lot of that. There was a lot of anticipation, and then I think maybe due to the art not being super great for me, the anticipation didn't hit quite as strongly as I would have wanted it to. Again, it's kind of nitpicky, but that's sort of when I was done. When I finished issue 5, I actually went, "Oh, that's it." I expected a 6th issue. I didn't realize I was only getting 5.
First off, I hate that trade paperbacks and comic arcs are now 5 instead of 6. I miss 6. Because I think, not to say that this didn't tell the story it wanted to tell. I think it does. But I actually think what you said there is a really interesting take and not one I would have even considered. Because, and I don't think this is a spoiler for you, but as you go forward, this is not necessarily a series about gore and fighting monsters. It's a series about intricate characters and their relationships. And it's a lot like Saga in that regard as well. So, you know, it's kind of like I remember when that, 2015, 2017 Godzilla came out and people were like, there was only a couple minutes of Godzilla at the end. And I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. You know, it didn't have to be Godzilla front to back. However, if you went in thinking this is going to be that kind of thing, then I could definitely see where you'd be like, this is not what I anticipated. So I get it.
Matt, I can tell you bit your lip at one point.
No,
I feel like I'm going to get blown up right now.
No, I think no. Honestly, what I was doing, I was flipping through volume 2, and I'm like, dude, you really. I don't. Volume 2
if it reads as fast as volume 1, I can probably give volume 2 a try because
it will, and there's a lot there. That's why I was like, I remember volume 2. This was almost like Invincible. I like the 12 issues instead of the first 6 because it really. I feel like the 12 issues is the first real arc. because you're going to get a lot of the supporting characters that just abruptly cut off at the end of issue 5. Dude gets bonked in the head, and there's all these people around a table with weird masks. Oh, you get that in volume 2 who those people are. Like that's what I'm saying. And there's a huge fight in that second volume that's what I've been thinking about. I'm like, oh man, I just really hope he sticks it out. Just one more trade. I want you to give it one more trade.
All right, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they do read quick, like Erik said. Like, I love it. It's like cold open, Miami Vice. like, you know, and then like it reads quick like that. So I think you should give it a try.
All right, I will. However, if I don't like it, I'm invoicing both of you for my time.
That's fine.
Fair.
You paid $5 for those trades, so I'll send you 10, homie. I got you.
I spent more than $5, dude. It was 25% off. They weren't $5 trades.
No, it's just for $5. I don't care what you tell me.
They were not $5. Don't make me go back and look at the credit card receipt from a year ago, because I will do it. I am that petty.
That's
petty. I'm that petty.
I love it. My only bad was Tommy. Tommy kind of sucked. But Tommy was like, he was very realistic and like how anyone would react, honestly. But I was just like, dude, like you're flying off the handle, you're getting a gun, you're trying to kill Erica, you shot James. Like, dude, you're out of control, man. Like, you're a bit of a hothead, but I get it. I was just like, he kind of sucked. That's all. And I had similar art complaints. Like, the art style does grow on you. I remember reading this at first. I was super like, this is like really jarring, but I liked the story, so I stuck with it. And then like Werther's style started to build, and there's a different artist on House of Slaughter, if I remember correctly. Erik, you can correct me. I believe it was a different artist on that.
I think it's still Dell'Edera.
Is it? Okay, never mind. All right, I'll shut up.
House of Slaughter looks fairly similar as you read through it. Yeah. It's pretty much the same kind of art.
Is it the same guy? Okay, all right. I'm wrong. I stand corrected.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoilers.
Okay, here's my bad. And Dave, you brought up reading digitally, and I don't know how you read it, if it was guided panel by panel.
Always guided you.
Okay, good. Reading physical, and this doesn't continue happening, but in these first couple of few issues, there are these, normally you read page by page, and then they'll do spreads across 2 pages. There are multiple places just in this first trade where it's not clear when it spans 2 pages, and I go, fuck, I read it out of order. Even this time I read it out of order and had to go back. That was really frustrating to me. I remembered feeling that way the first time. And he fixes it. He fixes it after the first, couple of trades, but that was one thing that bothered me.
That's one of my pet peeves with reading comics in general, is like accidentally reading something out of order and then going, fuck.
Yes.
I gotta fix this.
Especially when it spoils something. Yeah.
You read it physically, Erik? You got your issues out or whatever, or did the trade?
I won't touch those issues, but I did read the trade. Yeah.
Okay, so you did trade. So digitally on Global Comics, Dave, to drive you even more nuts, what Erik is saying, to build on that, it literally takes like page 1 and then page 2. So I read multiple pages out of order. Like Comixology, it's normally like the whole thing, and it's just like really tiny. No, it was like page 1, and I'm like, someone got shot, and then I go to the next panel, I'm like, what? Like, completely out of order, so I had to keep going back and forth. I was like,
sucks.
Out of control, bro.
I would not handle that well.
Dropped.
That'd make me very upset.
Yeah, fuck that.
Oh, shit.
All right, well, if there are any controversial opinions or hot takes, now is the time to share them as we hit the home stretch here. I only have one, and mine's also potentially, well, I'll just let you guys, I'll defer to y'all, and then I'll share mine if you don't touch on it.
You guys kind of hit on mine. My one point was, are you not entertained? It was a question to Dave in the Gladiator voice, but we kind of hit on that. He's like, he's going to stick with it, but he's kind of on, whatever ground. It's like, I'll give it one more shot. But, yeah.
It's like when I drop a monthly book, it's one bad issue away
from
me cutting it from the team.
I will say, of the past 5 years, this is my favorite new book.
And that was my other thing.
I think it's worth continuing to read. However, I don't think everybody's going to like it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think Saga is one of the few books that I would say anybody read this. You'll like it if you give it some time. And I
if you
think
don't like
this
comic books, you'll like
Right.
Saga.
Right. And I think this is a close second. However, the subject matter is, you know, maybe not to everybody's liking. There might be elements of it that people don't like, but I do have a hot take. And it's not necessarily about the book, but it's about a decision that Tynion made. And I mentioned that this is like reading or watching episodes of a TV show, and he has optioned this to Netflix for a series.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to work, and I don't want to see it, because I think comics are the right format for a story like this. Because although it's grounded in a reality that we recognize, we aren't looking at real humans. We're looking at art that is clearly fantasy and not real. And there's a lot of things that are abnormal or fantastical that are easy for us to accept are part of this comic world that has been created in these books. The second you put human beings on the screen, I feel like you start to look at it differently and go, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work. That's weird. Even if you're not saying it, I think there's some of it there. Now, if they did like an Invincible treatment and kind of took this art style and cleaned it up and maybe, you know, did a 3D version of it or something, maybe, but I feel like I'm worried about them doing it because as you can tell, I really do love this series. I like it for what it is, but for the same reason that these Disney live action remakes don't work. When you pull somebody out of the fantasy, you destroy that immersion and go, here's people doing this in real life. And you're like, this doesn't fucking make sense. This doesn't work. In comic format, I feel like you just accept that all things are possible in this world and what's presented makes sense. So I'm worried about that. That's my hot take is I want it to come to the masses, but I want to force people to read it. I don't want them to just see it on Netflix.
If we confirm, my brother, that it is live action, though, I knew it was option, but if we confirm, the assumption would be that it would probably be live action.
I would assume that it is based on Netflix's track record. The only thing that Netflix does that's animated is anime style animation.
That's true.
Like when they did Pacific Rim, Castlevania. They have
Devil
their
May
own
Cry.
like they do anime that is their own IP. So I would assume this is live action. That's actually my hot take as well. It's about the Netflix show. It's a much different hot take. I think for me, this works better as a show than a comic. For me,
interesting.
And this is primarily because the shows that Netflix have done that are sort of in this vein, I've really, really enjoyed. I think the risk is that they're only going to give it one season and cancel it before they have 2 weeks worth of viewer data to make a decision, like they always do. But I think in the Stranger Things, like that vein of Netflix production, I think this could be a cool show and one that maybe I would appreciate more than in comic form. And given that each of these issues is written like an episode of a TV show, I don't know how far off they really have to go.
It's basically a storyboard for a TV show. It really is built that way. I've seen the comparison to Stranger Things, which is weird for me because although I loved the first season, which I do think has similarities, from there it's just gotten silly, and I'm like, don't do that to it. Just don't do that.
That's fair. The most recent season of Stranger Things was really, really good, though. I'm sort of on like an inverted bell curve with Stranger Things.
Okay.
Where I really like it, and then I really don't, and then I really do.
All right. I would trust Amazon more because they've done great comic adaptations, except for Paper Girls, which I think they fucking botched. But
I didn't even watch it because I heard it was terrible.
I love Paper Girls, the comics, but I did not like the show. I couldn't even get through the show.
I'm Team Erik on this one. I'm sticking to this. I don't want to watch cheese grated children. That personally, I'm a little too close to that. Understandably, I just like that. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. Because if you're going to do it, do it. Like, whether I want it or not, you should do it. like you portray it in the comic. Personally, that's my opinion.
Yeah,
Not
that's
everything
fair.
has to be for me though, too. So, and I understand that. So,
Here's the question though: who would play Erica Slaughter? Because my wife Christy has also read the entire series,
that's awesome.
and she disagrees with me because I was like, Emma Stone is obviously Erica Slaughter. She was like, no. She wants, if you've seen the show Ahsoka, Ivana Sacco, who plays Shin Hati on that. I don't disagree with her, but I just need somebody to agree with me that Emma Stone would be a good Erica Slaughter.
I can see Emma Stone as Erica Slaughter.
That was the first person I thought of when you said who would play it.
Nice.
Emma Stone was the first person I thought of. Then I was thinking, well, she might be a little old for this now.
That's what
Is there
Christy
anybody
said.
better? And I don't know if there's anybody better.
Ivana Sacco, is that what your wife said?
Yeah.
I could see it with those eyes, man.
Yeah, she's got the eyes.
She's got the Erica eyes. If you Google that woman.
Yeah.
How do I spell that?
I can see it.
Spell that?
Ivana, I think her last name is Sakho, something like that.
Sakho. Yeah. Like those eyes, man.
That would be a good choice. Yeah, she has the look.
Okay, so everybody agrees. We need to start the petition. If it's going to happen, Netflix needs to hire her.
One of these two.
Emma Stone's only 34.
Oh, then she could do it.
She definitely could do it. How is she only 34?
Is that right?
Got to be like. I mean, that's what the internet says, man. The internet's not.
Dude, in Hollywood, you
ever.
could be like 70. Look at Tom Cruise. We're good. Emma Stone's good.
She was born in 88.
34. Yeah. She's about to turn 35, but still, that I just assumed she was older than that.
I mean, in the MCU, we got literally people in their 50s and 60s running around playing superhero now. So, like, who cares?
In the MCU, you've got people in their 50s marrying 25-year-olds in real life. So, I mean,
completely off the rails.
Totally.
Completely off the rails. Well, yeah, I guess that about wraps up our House of Slaughter discussion. I will give it another
Something
volume.
is killing the children.
Both convinced me.
Yes. Huh? House of Slaughter. We'll get into that way later.
Discussion. If you want to jump to House of Slaughter, we can do that if you want, Dave. That's
When do I read that? When do I read that?
That's Erik.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. See? What do I do? Who knows?
House of Slaughter, like Matt said, it's in breaks, so they do something. But they did the first several arcs of Something Is Killing the Children before they started House of Slaughter. Yeah. So we are into the fifth arc of House of Slaughter now, I think. So I would say after probably the fifth arc of Something Is Killing. I have to look it up what order to read in, but it's somewhere in that range.
He's got you.
You don't have to start until you're like several trades in, though.
Yeah,
there's probably a reading order somewhere online.
There definitely is.
But it's not as easy to find as I thought. I thought I would get that with a quick Google.
But Erik, it's not. It's also not super contemporary, if I remember. Like you can definitely read it on order. Unless
I really think you could, because House of Slaughter, although it touches on, there are parallels. It talks about characters and stuff. It follows other characters.
Yes,
it's kind of like saying, "Hey, here's Erica's story. Now let's follow other characters in their story and how there are through lines between the two series." Yes. So
it says here, after Volume 4 of Something Is Killing the Children, you should go to Volume 1 of House of Slaughter. If you want to go in like release order.
Yeah, and then you just go back and forth. Yeah. That's what I was saying. I was guessing 5, so 4 makes sense. Yeah. But also, when it's time to talk about this, you just let me know. I'll come back on.
World Tree.
Heard about that.
I got issue 1 of that in like a free bundle of number 1s digitally, and I remember reading it and going, "This is cool. I should check this out someday." And then I just never went back to it.
Well, it's our guy Tynion, and I've read a bunch of his books, like Blue Book and Wind and stuff like that. Man, not since I started reading Something Is Killing the Children did a book grab a hold of me like World Tree did. I was stoked on it from right from the beginning. And it's not that deep in. Like, if you're going to start, I think they just finished the first 5-issue arc, and there's a lot in there, so it's worth picking up and reading.
I must be thinking of something else then, because I'm thinking of something else. I didn't realize that was that recent.
Yeah, it's
Scratch
new.
what I said.
New. Okay. Scratched. It's out of my memory.
Perfect. Thank you. Erik, any closing thoughts? Since you're the guest of honor.
Well, I mean, my closing thought is I'm glad you took a chance and read the first trade, at least. Even if you don't read beyond that, I'm glad you gave it a shot, because it's my goal to like get people to check out this book. So I'm glad you did.
I'm sorry it took me so long.
It's fine. Hey, and you invited me on to talk about it, which is even better. I got to talk about Something is Killing the Children, so I'm stoked.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. It was a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Before we go, I always like to let everyone know that their support is appreciated. So not only do we need you to share our podcast, rate it on Spotify, whatever, Apple Podcasts, share it on social, help us grow. Growth means we can keep doing the podcast. But while you're at it, you should do the same thing for Erik and his podcast.
Hey,
What's it called again? One more time?
Twisted with Us. That's TWIZTID with us. Or you can look up ICPWWE, or you can go to our website, ICPWWE.com.
Perfect. So check out Erik's stuff. If you're a juggalo or a juggalette, you'll probably enjoy it. I enjoyed my time on his podcast. You'll probably enjoy it too.
Yeah, even if you don't identify as a juggalo, which we now use that term as all genders, by the way.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's just a fun show, and the whole premise was music lovers that are interested in this weird phenomenon trying to like explore it and understand it. So even if you're like, I've heard of these guys, they're weird, it's worth checking out.
Cool. Any socials that you want to plug? I know you're not really a big social media guy.
I used to have X, but I got logged out and I don't remember how to log back in.
Hell yeah. Well, we still call that shit Twitter around here. I'll never call it X. But if you want to follow Matt and I on Twitter, our handles will be in the description of this audio or video episode, along with my threads, which no one uses, including me. But if you follow me on Threads, I'll follow you back.
You can follow our podcast on Instagram or X/Twitter. Perfect. Just go to the website. That's it.
Send me your info. I'll put it in the description of the episode so it's easier for people to find. I mean,
awesome.
Link to it.
That's
way easier. Happy Halloween. This comes out on the 30th of October. Hopefully you listen to it the day it comes out. If you don't listen to it then, it might sound weird that I'm wishing you a happy Halloween, but that's your fault, not mine. We'll see y'all in a week or two. Until then, we have Erik with us. My name is Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye.